Hey there, listeners. Tasha and I were discussing, we have so many podcasts, so much great content, 80 to 90 episodes already. And we want to thank you so much for tuning in. And we also decided, maybe we need to go back to the basics and start with something that's kind of step one. And so this episode is simply called How to Buy a House. Tune in.
Thanks for tuning in to the RealtorMoms Podcast. I'm Tasha.
And I'm Jamie. We're full-time realtors in the Fargo-Moorhead and surrounding areas, and admittedly average moms. This is how we sell homes.
And try to keep our kids alive.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for tuning into the RealtorMoms Podcast today. Tasha and I are going to talk about the buying process.
Yes. How do you buy a home?
Right. How do you buy a house? So we're not going to get into a lot of the deep details on what you're looking for in a home specifically. We're more going to talk about the process involved with where do you even begin? And then at what point do you get to actually see the houses? When do you sign paperwork, et cetera, et cetera?
Yes.
So
all that right here.
So we're kicking it right off. Step one, find a great realtor.
Yes. Find a realtor. Work with us. I mean, we're great.
We've got that covered for you.
Yes. You're listening to us. Here we are. But, the second step, and really it could be first or second, because this can go hand in hand, but find a great lender. Mm-hmm. Find someone that's willing to assist you with the process, someone you feel comfortable with, someone that will properly run numbers so you feel as comfortable as you can in this process.
Take heed if you feel like someone is saying you're approved for way more than you thought you were or way less than you thought you were. I mean, go with your gut. Find somebody that you really feel comfortable with. Because your lender is a huge part of this process. They're incredibly important people when you're buying or borrowing money.
Hand in hand with all of the mortgage lenders. I mean, that's just how this works. You need both sides to make this, move along seamlessly.
And like in a lot of other industries, people within the industry know a lot of other people within the industry. So maybe you are ready to come and chat with us. You have no idea where to go for a lender. We've got some great resources. And lots of options too. If you're looking for somebody with specific experience in specific things or who specializes, don't be afraid to ask us.
Yes, we can point you in the right direction.
Yeah. Okay, what happens after that? So say you've got a realtor, you've got a lender, now what?
Well, this isn't on our list, but it's right before. And I like to do what I call buyer consults.
I figured you were going to go there.
Yes. I love doing buyer consults. I want to sit down with my buyers. I want to explain the process. I want to talk about terminology, what this looks like, what they can expect. Right. I also want to sit down with my MLS system and really go through with my clients, with my buyers, what they're looking for in a home, and that we're doing it together and really creating that list of homes to look at together. Right. And we can really talk through so much information. And I find that when I do my buyer consults with my buyers, that we can cut that time frame down with looking significantly.
Sure, that search period.
Correct.
Because you've honed in on what they're looking for, because you've met them in person.
Yes.
You've looked at some listings together, gotten their feedback. Sometimes it's even nice, we'll pull up some listings when you're sitting here in the office with us and we'll think, oh, this is going to be a winner. And then while we're looking through it or talking about the details, our buyer will say, oh, well, I wanted to make sure I got air conditioning. Just a random example. Oh, well, we didn't know that was part of your criteria. So glad that we sat here together with you so that if that is an absolute must-have, we can work that into the selection criteria and not bother with homes that don't have it. Or put those kind of lower on the list and let you know, hey, this is a concession that you might need to make if you like this house. Because we'll have an idea of what your priorities are.
Correct. And so it's incredibly helpful.
Yeah, anything from the direction it faces to the way the driveway it comes up to the house. I mean, there's all kinds of details
that can really factor in.
Yeah, maybe important to you that aren't on some, generic fill in the blank artificial search online.
Correct.
We really want to know more about what makes you tick and what would make you happy in a house.
Correct. Is it that you really need 4 bedrooms, or is it that you need 3 bedrooms in an office space? Yeah. Those are things that we really are trying to uncover as we're sitting down with our buyers.
Totally.
But really, after I complete my buyer consult and really get to know my client in a better way.
Yeah.
Then it's time to start the fun part. We're looking at homes.
We're looking at houses.
We're looking at houses and we're rolling homes in and out. Try to keep it fun. Try to keep it memorable. I know
not too memorable.
Well, you have people name homes. I know you do, and I do too. But really, this is the fun part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it is. But to keep this moving along at a steady pace.
Yeah. So let's say you find the right thing. Okay. You've shown them how many. Okay. I get this question a lot. Maybe you get it too. How many houses do people see on average before they make an offer?
And we've talked about this in a past episode. Yeah. Yes, we have.
So how do you answer that question?
I'd say generally 50-50 in terms of.
She didn't mean 50 houses.
50
She's
houses.
Getting to it.
No, 50-50 in terms of the first house they buy, they want to make an offer on.
The first house they visit, you mean?
Yep, the first house they visit, which I, of course, try to get them into other homes.
Right. So they have a criteria, or so they have a bank of houses to compare it to.
Yes. But I do find that mine, I would say somewhere between 5 to 7, maybe 10 homes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
is generally what we walk through.
Sure.
Give or take. And it, keep in mind, each client is a little different. But how many times do they go back to the first home? 50%, I would say.
Okay. Yep. I talk about that sometimes too. I say it's the house that got you off the couch, right?
Yes,
it's
the house that got you off the couch. Yeah.
Was the catalyst to you making that phone call, to just thinking, oh my gosh, maybe we should look into buying a house, or I should think about moving. Or
maybe that's
whatever.
The one that gets people out.
Yeah.
So look at an open house.
So provided that house is still available by the time, some of these other pieces fall into place, which don't be discouraged. Well, yeah, don't be discouraged if it's not available, and also don't be discouraged thinking that this process can take a super long time. In some cases it does, but in a lot of cases
it can move very quickly.
Oh yeah, we can get you pre-approved with a lender, or at least in communication with a lender really, really quickly. And these folks are very, very responsive. And so, yeah, don't hesitate just because you think it's going to take a long time. Give us a call. It probably won't take as long as you think.
There are some lenders that even work on weekends, so that's another thing. Mm-hmm. Maybe their information isn't online, but we know lenders that do work on weekends.
So let's say they found the house they want to write an offer.
Yes, yay! I would put the next step on the list is completing that mortgage application.
Okay, so you've written an offer. Let's go back to writing an offer. Like, another question I get a lot is, how long does the seller have to respond to our offer? That's a tough one.
That's a tough one. That's definitely a tough one, because unless you put a time limit in, it could be indefinite.
Yeah.
But, you can put a time limit in. Yep. I guess one way that I guide my clients, which can be different from Jamie, I'm not even sure on this.
Can't wait to hear what she's about to say.
But what I generally tell people is don't put in a time limit, but let's say we find that it's taking a long time, then you can enact a time limit after the fact.
And that's almost the exact same thing as I do. We talk about that, like, especially if we think it's going to be a hot property or it's brand new to the market, we got a first look and we want to snap it up and take it off the market.
That's not how it works.
Well,
not generally.
You have to, if you're going to do that, if you're going to jump into a property that's, you're kind of getting in right away.
The hot commodity property.
Yeah. If it's priced correctly, then you're probably going to be competing. And you're probably going to be making a really aggressive offer, meaning a really attractive offer to those sellers. If it's an overpriced home and you just got to throw something in there and it's only been on the market for a few hours and you're coming in really low, well, at least we tried. But when we are potentially assuming we may be competing, then I get that question, like, should we put in a timeline so they have to respond to us? Well, the important thing to know is if you do that, if you say this offer expires tomorrow at 2:00, it really does.
It really does expire. You don't get to come back.
Yeah, even if those sellers want to accept your offer at 2:15, they cannot. That contract is no longer valid. So I do kind of what Tasha does. I say, we're gonna stay in contact with the selling agent, the seller's agent,
listing agent.
If you get tired of waiting, then we can say, listen, I'm going to have to pull this offer in so much time if we don't hear back from you. And then we go ahead and we make that decision at that time.
Correct.
So But yeah, okay, so we made an offer and the offer's accepted. Yay, now what?
Yeah, now what? That's making sure that you're completing everything for the mortgage application that you have already started with when you were shopping for lenders.
Yes.
So
and of course, this doesn't apply if you're cash. If you're buying with cash, great, you can skip this part. But a lot of our buyers are using mortgage financing.
Yes.
So you need to get in there or at least get in contact with your mortgage financing or loan officer. Let them know what you bought and start some paperwork.
Correct. Mm-hmm. And, many times I would say 99% of the time I'm sending the minute that we have an accepted offer, I'm sending over that contract, that purchase agreement to the lender on, for my clients on their behalf.
Yeah.
So they have it in their, in their email ready to go and ready to get working on it with you or with the buyer to move things along quickly.
Yeah. And if rates are bouncing around a little bit, we want to make sure that the lender gets that purchase agreement ASAP so that they can advise you on locking a rate, waiting,
or whichever way you need to go with that. Mm-hmm. So
after visiting with your mortgage lender, then what?
Well, you and I differ a little bit on this, but I'll take the lead on this the way that you do it.
Sure. Oh, it don't matter. Some of this stuff is dependent on your agent.
Depending on your agent. But the next step, I know you talk about, you bring up, finding and bringing up and talking to homeowners insurance agents and kind of getting that process started. Mm-hmm. I talk about you needing it when we're writing the purchase agreement.
Yeah.
But I really put that into place at a next step. But go into homeowners insurance a little bit, Jamie.
Well, just that when your mortgage lender is trying to prepare you with estimates of how much this house is going to cost you per month, how much cash you're going to have to bring to the closing table, I like them to be able to have the information about your your homeowner's insurance so that they have those prices.
Prices, yes.
Yeah. So my next step after speaking with your mortgage lender is to speak with your homeowner's insurance associate or agent. And if, again, just like mortgage people, we can definitely give you some recommendations for some great insurance agents too.
Recommendations. Mm-hmm. We can help. We know people.
Yeah. But you don't necessarily have to do that step.
You don't have to do that step in that moment either. I do it a little different. I bring it up during the purchase agreement, time to start talking about it. But I really get, that's, I guess, maybe not nagging, but when the time starts is after this next step, which after we have an accepted offer and you complete your mortgage application, it would be completing the home inspection. That's the next step that I go by and really try to focus on.
And that's a crucial one because it has a defined timeline. When you make an offer that is contingent upon a home inspection.
Correct. And if that's the case, it's whatever is written into the purchase agreement for the time frame. But in the contracts in our area, how it works is we have that time frame to complete the inspection or any and all other supplicant home inspections. What if you are testing for radon? Yep. What if you're doing a sewer line scope? Mm-hmm. What if you're doing air quality testing for mold? Those are the types of inspections we're talking about. Yes. But within that time frame, at least with how our contracts are written, we would then, my buyers would have that time to waive the inspection contingency. They would have that time frame to negotiate repairs, or they have that time frame to cancel out of the contract. Right. So with that being said, that's that next step, and it's a very important piece to the process.
Oh, for sure.
But after that is when I usually tell people, okay, if you haven't done this yet, now is time to contact the homeowner's insurance, your homeowner's insurance agent, and getting that all set up.
Yep.
So.
And again, with the home inspection, we have contacts that we can refer to you. If you've got somebody in mind, you want to bring dad or cousin Bob, whatever, to your home inspection, that is totally fine, and that's a great time to bring anybody that you feel is essential to your decision making process. But always take this stuff with a grain of salt. Like, For example, I'm just going to use parents as an example. We love our buyers' parents. We want to make sure that they're comfortable too, or, they're happy for their kid who's buying a house or whatever. And sometimes this is the opposite. Sometimes it's the kids of the buyer, the adult children of the buyer that come, and they have some really important feelings about what their family member is purchasing. What we need to keep in mind and what we try to explain to those guests at the home inspection is, if they haven't been along on the search journey, they don't have a lot of, what am I trying to say here? They don't have a lot of
very good scope of what we've been looking at
of the scope of options. That's a great way to put it. Yeah. So keep that in mind too, and we'll try to help you with that. But
keep in mind, if you have a family member that you want involved, say during the inspection process, why don't we bring them through the search, so that way they're along for the ride and they know what all the homes or a large portion of the homes we've been walking through, and what does that look like.
Right. I don't think that these other family members are ever trying to sabotage our buyers, they're
looking out for your best interest, of course, but maybe they haven't seen,
they don't have a context for it.
Yeah, they don't have a context for what we've been looking at and why this one rose to the top of the list.
Exactly. So keep that in mind. But yeah, home inspection time frame. Let's assume that everything went great, whether we negotiated something for a repair or a replacement, or said, no, this house is perfect. We can move forward and waive any other contingencies related to home inspection. What happens after that?
Well, at that point, an appraisal will take place.
Yeah.
Which that's ordered from your mortgage lender.
Yes. And you as the buyer don't, by any automatic stance anyway, get to go along for that appraisal.
For the appraisal, no.
The appraisers make their own appointment. They usually don't even contact the buyer's agent to do it. They contact the listing agent to make that appointment.
Take some time to walk through the home, take photos, and they're actually pretty quick through it, but then they complete their report after the fact in front of their computer, kind of like what we do when we do our market evaluations.
Sure. Yeah.
And then they submit that to be reviewed by the underwriter at the mortgage company.
Right.
Right.
And the purpose of the appraisal is to verify for the bank that the money that this buyer is borrowing is appropriately allocated towards this purchase. So whether it's to verify that the price is the right price, the appraiser agrees that the house is worth that much, or the condition is okay, that the bank is in agreement on condition and the rules for what needs to be, in what kind of condition for the property. That's kind of what the appraiser does. If you're an appraiser and you're listening to this, we know you do a lot more. We're just kind of touching on the
bare basics of what you do.
From the realtor's perspective, they are very important people. We love you.
Okay, we're sucking up a little. Or I should say Jamie's sucking up a little.
Yeah, just me, apparently. So be nice. No, okay, so let's say we are through the appraisal process.
And everything goes swimmingly.
Yeah. I think it's important to note, too, that your lender will generally tell you, the buyer, about the progress of the appraisal. Like, hey, yes, the appraiser has been to the house and the report is in and everything is fine. They give you that information. They don't necessarily give us that information first. So you can always reach out to us and we can check in on that for you. But if you're like, oh, my realtor hasn't told me about my appraisal yet, it's partly because we don't really know until you tell us that it's in.
You tell us, or if you have a lender that does tell us, or if you're like me, who bug the lenders to tell me where we're at with the process.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm a pain.
No, that's all good. But yeah, so keep an eye on your email and things like that, because you may be the first to know about the appraisal and its progress.
But then from there, it depends on the realtor and how they want to approach this, but there's notifying others, contacting utility companies. I would say, I usually tell people probably the week of closing.
Sure.
I know you, Jamie, tell people, okay, the day before closing, contact utility companies, put that information into your name. But, that just depends on how each realtor approaches things.
Yeah. So, and what we're talking about is calling your electric utility company, water, sewer, garbage, your
gas,
internet, cable. Yep. So, and also, eventually you're going to be changing and forwarding your mail. Most likely.
So,
you're going to need to do that on the property you're moving to, right? And probably also the property you're moving
away from.
So yeah, that can take a little bit of time. And our office is so fabulous. We'll send you a list of the companies to call, so you don't even have to go on a search looking for them.
Yep,
we'll get you that information. We'd love to help you with that.
Perfect. So. After that, the next step is receiving that final closing disclosure. That is the final numbers. They cannot change. And that, everything up until that point is an estimate. But keep in mind, these are the final numbers for closing. What do you need to bring? What is the cash you need to bring to closing? And I don't mean actual cash. It's usually
that's a good point.
a cashier's check or wiring of the funds.
No big briefcases full of $100 bills.
You don't get to feel like that big man on campus. Not this time around. Cashier's check or wiring of the funds.
Right. So you'll get a statement. It's kind of like a receipt, and you're going to see exactly what everything cost that was part of the process of purchasing. And like Tasha kind of alluded to way early on when we're on like step 3 or so, in that buyer's meeting is one of our opportunities to tell you the points of this process that are going to cost you some money. Like hiring the inspector is a cost of the buyer that the buyer pays for at the time of the inspection.
And that doesn't show up on the closing disclosure. That's
because you will have paid for that at that time, long before we've gotten to closing day.
But,
but some things like an appraisal, some lenders charge for appraisals up front.
Yep.
And versus other ones, maybe put that on your kind of receipt thing that we're talking about on your closing disclosure.
And that would be the funds that you would pay at the time of closing.
Yeah. The weird thing is different offices, title companies and agents call it different things. There's closing disclosure. There's settlement statement. There's ALTA forms. Yeah, there's a whole lot of words that say the same thing. And what it ultimately is a receipt of your transaction and the costs associated with it that are due on closing day.
Yes.
So that's what the closing disclosure is, or this last receipt thing. And that'll come about 3 days before closing. I believe
3 days before closing.
Minimum is 3 days before closing. Generally, it's going to come from your lender, and they are going to want you to view it and ask questions about it or make changes or confirm that it's accurate in a pretty short order. So when you're about a week from closing, you should be in regular and very close communication with that lender.
Exactly.
Because that is another timed item. If you spend 3-4 days looking at this closing disclosure
and don't sign off, you might not be able to close on the closing date that was agreed upon by all sides.
Yeah, there's a rule that says they have to give it to you 3 days at least before closing. So, but your lender's going to be great about communicating that with you and staying on top of you to get that signed. Otherwise, they call us, and then we chase you down in the middle of the evening and say, "Hello, I need you to check your email and ask if you got questions or sign that."
Exactly. We don't like nagging people. This is not what we like to do.
But
we will if needed.
Yep, it's our job to help keep you on track.
Correct.
So there's essentially just a couple things left. So we're basically at closing day,
or
the day before.
The day before or closing day. Mm-hmm. This is a very important piece to the process. Do not skip this. Yeah. And that is completing your final walkthrough.
Right.
You are making sure that the home is in the same condition. Mm-hmm. There's not big holes in the wall. The items that have been stated that will be included with the sale are still there.
Good point.
If there are items that were asked to be completed because of the inspection
repairs,
inspection repairs, we're verifying that was completed, making sure appliances are working, making sure heating works, just basically
whatever you've got. Yeah.
Though you can't run the air conditioner in winter.
No, that's true.
So there are things that we do need to check, but we are verifying that the home is in the right way to turn over the keys to you. So that way you feel comfortable to move right in.
Making sure the house looks the way you expected it to.
Correct.
Because we don't want you to have not seen the house for, sometimes this process can take a couple months. If you wrote the offer in March and now it's June, and you're going to go and sign the papers and then buy this house and then walk into it for the first time in 3 months. Yikes. No, we want to get you in there one last time to make sure everything pans out, everything looks right, you're comfortable. And then we go to our last item on the list.
Which is closing. Where you get a hand cramp.
Yeah.
But you are signing lots of documents.
That's great. Hand cramp.
Yes, the hand cramp. But you get to sign lots of documents. You sit with a closer and we go,
we'll be there too.
We'll be there. We're always there. And going over all of the documents with you. And, once everything is officially signed, you have provided the funds to purchase the home, we get to hand over the keys and you have closed on a home.
Yay! And that's the finish line. I mean, as far as then you get to do the actual heavy lifting. The literal heavy lifting.
Literal heavy lifting. Yes.
But then the house is yours. So that's kind of the process from starting with calling us to be your realtor and or getting in touch with a great lender who will then refer you to us to be your realtor. Emphasis on the realtor part. No, but from just making that first phone call to say, I think I might want to maybe buy a house and I don't know what to do, to handing over the keys.
We try to dumb it down for you, and this is the process. Yeah. So we're looking forward to your phone calls, looking forward to helping you take on this next step.
We'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for listening. If you liked what you hear, you can check out our library of tons more episodes on RealtorMomsPodcast.com. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or just about anywhere you listen to podcasts. And please never hesitate to reach out. We would love to be your realtors. This podcast is produced by RealtorMoms Podcast, Jamie R. Swenson and Tasha Barrett, Park Company Realtors, 4170 41st Avenue South, Fargo, North Dakota.